What is up, MMA fans? I am Jason Burgos for SportsNot.com, and I have the pleasure of being joined by one of the most well-traveled combat sports commentators ever. This man has worked for Bellator, the UFC, WWE, and now will be taking his talents to Combate Global as their new play-by-play voice, and that is the one and only Jimmy Smith. Senor Smith, thanks for the time today.
Oh, enough with the praise. Come on, stop. Keep going. You can go pretty much as long as you want. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, man.
I'm just stating facts. It's all facts. This isn't any kind of hyperbole. This is the facts. This is what you've done.
Those are all the people I've worked with. It's very true.
So when I got the press release that for Combate Global's event on March 11th, a couple weeks ago, I was pleasantly surprised when it was announced you would be the new play-by-play voice. The obvious first question is, how did this all come about to land a great MMA free agent while, oddly enough, NFL free agency is going on?
Yeah, it was one of those things where my manager calls me and goes, how about, we have an offer from Combate. They're looking for somebody for play-by-play. Now, another thing is that I've only done 2 play-by-play shows for MMA, for Titan, down here in Florida, 2019. So, play-by-play, and it's right here. It's I live in South Florida. It's in Miami. It's really close. I don't have to travel anywhere. I don't have to get on a plane every weekend. And I was like, man, all of it just kind of worked out at the right time. Yeah, it's weird. People don't get how this business works. Where, it's like musical chairs. Somebody has to stand up for you to sit down. It is what there's got to be something available, and so all these fans, whatever, people who don't understand the business, it's how did this opportunity come about? They needed somebody, and I was available. And that's someone stands up and someone else sits down. It happened to work out that they needed a play-by-play guy. Right after I was done with WWE, I want more reps in play-by-play, and it all happened to work out exactly the right time, which is why I'm there.
Now, Combate Global, all the way back to the days when they were Combate Americas, have always kind of stayed in their lane. They are all about slowly building, growing the audience, never overextending themselves, especially like financially and stuff like that. Now, they've done some things, signing Alberto Del Rio, Tito Ortiz for the pay-per-view and all those kinds of things, but adding you is not necessarily a big-ticket fighter move, but it's very big in terms of perception. Their Spanish language audience is strong, but that English language audience is still kind of a work in progress for them. How much is this deal about you trying to grow that audience, bringing the prestige you have as a commentator who's worked for so many big brands already?
It's a tough question. Let me explain why it's a tough question. I don't and can't get wrapped up in those things. This may sound weird. I am part of a machine that churns all on its own, whether it's WWE or UFC or whatever. As a commentator, if you can't get wrapped up in your own ego, you just can't. I think I do a good job. I think I bring something to the products I work for. I don't know of anyone ever turning into a product because Jimmy Smith was there. And you have to live with that. Where this isn't the Packers losing Aaron Rodgers, like Jesus, where you win half the games, right? When it's like I don't have that role, right? I don't know there was a noticeable dip in the WWE or the UFC or anywhere else. I stopped working, and you have to accept that. So you go, what do you bring? I bring to me. And I've told every producer I've ever worked for, worry about everything but me. Worry about it. Like the producer over at Combate, on my first day, he goes, I need you to voice this. Yeah, got it. They showed me this promo. Okay, I wrote down like 2 notes. And they go, all right, ready to go. And I voiced the promo. And the truck, they were like, God, that was it. I go, yeah. I've been doing this for like 15 years. Yeah, just give me a promo. Tell me how long it is. And oh my God, we have this thing going on. You got to go to the desk now. You got to turn around. Okay. Turn around the desk. All right, cool. And then 3, 2, hey, welcome back to Combate Global. Right here with Rodolfo Roman. We got to say that, this is what I do for a living. So I just want to be that player you don't worry about, right? I just want to be that player, like we throw him in and he plays his position and he always runs the right route at the right time, and that's it. And so does that bring in numbers and people, I don't know. I have no idea. And I'm not gonna I don't have the kind of ego where that occurs to me. You know, and I'm like, hey, dude, I run my route. You know, I play my part of the game, but you have to understand that the machine is bigger than me, and it's always going to be. So if I thought, man, I bring all this stuff to wherever I work or whatever, I don't know. If I had an inflated ego, you can't manage the ups and downs of this game. You would just be, you'd fall apart all the time. I'm not built like that, man. I'm not. Yeah.
Now, I do.
I know it's way more complicated of an answer than what you wanted, but it's true. Like, what do you bring? Like, all I bring is a level of professionalism where I've been there before, and I know what to do. I know what camera to look at and all that stuff. You know, I've been in television for a long time, you know.
And it's it is a great answer, and I completely get your point. Yeah, the fans are tuning in for the fights and stuff like that. Maybe they're not tuning in for the analysts and the play-by-play, but still, when someone turns on a play-by-play that knows the sport and they hear your voice, they're going to go, oh, that's Jimmy Smith. Wait a minute. And it makes a difference. At least to the people that know the sport. I feel it does, especially because you've been, all your experience, like you mentioned, you have experience. Throw you into the fire. It can't be any more difficult than the UFC. It can't be any more difficult than WWE. That said, it is because I would imagine they know your value. They know your talent in terms of experience and everything you've done. Are you getting like a little bit of extra say because you know, your name, you've done a lot in this whole situation. This is the biggest English language broadcaster they've ever had with their brand. Is there any kind of extra role you have? Not role, but any kind of extra say to because of your experience to better the English language broadcast and the commentary?
People trust me.
Yeah.
I think that is just where, like, you know, Rodolfo Roman's the color guy, right? I've worked with him in Titan, so I know him already. Like, we already knew one another. Oh, man, great work with you. So when I sit down and go, hey, man, I think this is the angle for this fight, he doesn't go, who the fuck are you? You know, he goes, okay, cool, yeah, all right, let's do this then, because, you know, like, you know, he won his last fight, but, man, he took a lot of punches. Here's how what you get good at is telling the story in a particular fight beforehand. In the WWE, you tell the story throughout the match, which is, like, this part you have to get used to. In MMA, I tell the story until the cage door closes. Then they tell the story, right? But that walk in, it's like, all right, how are we going to – what's the storyline of this fight to kind of make it compelling? This guy had a wipeout in his first fight. He ate a right hand on the way in that if that had been a decent right hand, he's going to go out. So let's play – you know, he's good, but, man, I've seen some vulnerabilities. Like, has he cleaned these things up? And Rodolfo will go, yeah, that's good. Let's add that. You know, so when I engage in these conversations with people, whoever it is – you know, nobody says, what do you know? Like, they know that I know. So it's not that I take over a different role. It's that, you know, hey, for the open of the show, you know, we're going to say this. I'm like, hey, man, can I add in this? And they go, yeah, great. You know, like, one of them was when we started the opening for the first season, I said, let me goof around with Rodolfo a little bit so they know we know one another. So that when we say something to one another on air, they know we, you know, people don't go, like, oh, why is he? Yeah, I know him. Yeah. Like, we can kid around and people know. So I threw in a little, hey, Rodolfo, it's great to be working with you both. And they're like, oh, good idea. You know, it wasn't like I was getting out of my role, but when I add little things, people, you know, tend to listen to me because I've been doing this for a minute, you know.
And I'm glad you mentioned those kind of little things that adds a little more, like something that's relatable and people can grab onto because in the end, everyone's trying to compete with the UFC and everybody's trying to grab that same fan base. What do you feel like, as a person that's been in UFC, as a person that's been in WWE, it's a massive fan base all over the world. What do you feel like, because you do have a little say, you can make some ideas, you can give them and they'll listen, that kind of Combate would need to do to grab some more of those English language UFC fans and stuff like that, bring more of them to their product to just further grow a brand that really has come a long way in the last few years?
What I think they're doing right is they do encourage what they call Mexican style fighting, man, of like, hey, dude, if you back up, the selling point is not, you know, that Justin Vasquez is the best fighter in the world at his weight class. It's that dude's going to bring some action. I saw a fight that I was studying for last week, and I was studying his earlier fights, blah, 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 blah. It was Ivan Tena, right? In his previous fight, he was like 4-0, and his opponent was like 4-2. Those mother effers went to war that in a way that usually guys with that record don't do. You know what I mean? Like, there's a 4-1 guy. Number one, he was crisp. He was real sharp. Number two, his opponents just threw big haymakers. And I was like, oh, this is Combate. It's not this guy's 10-0 and undefeated. It's I'm 4-0. I'm gonna take your head off. Like usually with guys with that record, the fights are really one-sided. It's like, all right, he's 4-0 and really good. This other guy's kind of garbage. Dude, in Combate, I'm like, Jesus Christ, these guys hit like he stole something from them. They have this way of matching guys up for maximum impact. Where, you know, that Justin Vasquez made ESPN, that flying knee knockout. It was on my feed in ESPN. Not the selling point is not look at this expensive free agent we spent millions of dollars on. It's look at this guy knock this other dude's head off. And they're really good at matching up. Hey, this is gonna be a banger. I don't. You know, you might not have all the background in the world, blah blah, but these guys are bangers, and that's kind of their niche. Is, you know, these Latin fighters that have a ton of pride, man. They're screaming Chile as they're walking out there, and you know, F Ecuador, F whatever country. It's like these little signs. It's almost like soccer, right? It's like just a lot of pride on the line, which not every promotion caters to that necessarily. And Combate is kind of that niche. It isn't, hey, you're going to see a slick 12-0 guy. You're going to see a 6-0 guy who is a murderer. And I think that is kind of their market at the moment. It's a lot of fun.
Now, getting away from Combate and just getting your thoughts on the industry and commentary stuff like that. As a person that's done it for so long, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of interesting commentary-related stuff that happened after UFC 286. The first was Colby Covington pretty much just threatening John Anik over his support of like Bilal Muhammad being a worthy contender for the welterweight title. What are your thoughts on something like that? Covington taking something that a commentator takes and their opinion too seriously. And during your career, do you have stories of fighters getting upset with thoughts and opinions that you might have had on and off the air that, you know, it's difficult, you're just doing your job?
Hardly ever. The only thing that they had an issue with was Bellator had me score fights. And they still do. They have Big John McCarthy score fights. And a couple of fighters had an issue with my score. But like one or two in all the time I was there. Like not very often. And also, with somebody like Colby Covington, King Mo had an issue with me in the way I called the fight with his first fight with Rampage Jackson. And what bugged me about it is Spike made a promo, and King Mo was trashing how I called the fight, or my opinion about the fight. I don't remember exactly the verbiage he used. Oh, I do now. He had called Bjorn a dick rider. He called Bjorn a dick rider. Bjorn's a dick rider. And then King Mo made a promo and he goes, oh, Jimmy Smith needs to find a new method of transportation. Meaning I was a dick rider too, for Rampage or whatever.
Yeah.
I went, okay. And I thought two things. I got to talk to King Mo, which I did.
Yeah.
The second thing is, you know, what is the, you know, promotion, the Spike at the time, I don't remember Spike, we were Spike at the time, but they made a promo out of this guy saying this. And that's the one thing is, you know, the John Anik didn't sign up to fight Colby Covington. He didn't sign up to be part of this, whatever it is, right? He's not a fighter. He didn't sign up for this. And when you go after people who didn't sign up to fight, now King Mo didn't threaten me, he didn't, you know, anything like that. I went to his room, I knocked on his door, and he opened the door, and I said, "We don't have a problem, do we?" You know, like, hey, dude, I don't want some personal beef because it affects the commentary. Yeah. Then it's kind of a John Jones DC situation. We don't trust DC's commentary when it comes to John Jones because they have a personal beef, and I consider that unprofessional. I consider that, like, I would never have a beef with a fighter. You know, it was Frank Shamrock and Jake Shields had an issue. Well, when he got knocked down by Dan Henderson, Frank basically jumped out of his seat and was just thrilled. Well, that's not good commentary. You got to be neutral enough that people believe you. And if I have an issue with a fighter, there's gonna be a problem, right? And Mo was cool, and also Mo was just like, dude, I was just promoting. I was just trying to make it sound cool. Like, that was fine. Okay, cool. I get it. I feel, and we had no personal problem. Everything was great. You threaten on-air talent, then you have an issue. Because you can't even, I'm hyping a fight. I'm not going to fight John Anik. And so that's when somebody, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I have no idea. That's when someone at the UFC goes, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Because, then you start getting into, legal issues. I'm not going to call his fights because, he threatened me, or who the fuck now? Anik's a pro, and it probably won't be an issue, but it could be, right? If hey, I don't feel safe, I'm not going out there to cause fights, So it just leads to a lot of problems that don't need to happen. And also, once again, it doesn't even fall under the umbrella of, I was promoting a fight. I was just, dude, I'm going to fight John Anik for money. It doesn't work that way. So when people ask, kind of what's over the line for a commentator, I mean, not for a commentator, for a fighter, I would say anything that involves someone who didn't sign up to do this.
Yeah.
Their wife, their kids, they didn't sign up to be a target for your bullshit, commentator, whatever. We didn't sign up to do that. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it, where once you involve somebody that does not fight for money, who didn't sign up to be threatened, that's an issue. Yeah.
Now, another commentary related thing that came from that interesting event, Justin Gaethje bashing Michael Bisping for perceived favoritism of Leon Edwards, and in the main event, obviously, when you are in the game for this long, you make fighter friends. Obviously, I doubt Bisping, who is a very good commentator, was showing any kind of favoritism in the fight. But have there been times for you where calling matches gets a little difficult because you've been around for so long? I know there's a lot of good guys and women in MMA. Maybe you become a friend. Does it make certain instances where you've had a fight, you commentate, it's like, damn, that's my boy. I gotta call a certain way, or it's always about professionalism, and it's easier to do to call straight down the line than people may realize.
Dan Hornbuckle, Ben Askren. Dan Hornbuckle got his ass whooped from pillar to post. Really liked Dan Hornbuckle. Good dude. Friendly guy. Good family man. Ben Askren had made comments about the way I had commentated his previous fight. That's another guy. A guy named Ryan Tank Engine Thomas. And he had issues with the way I called that fight, because he got a guillotine. No, it was a Japanese necktie, if I remember correctly. And the referee stopped it prematurely. Ryan wasn't out. He said he's out, and Ryan wasn't. Ryan just, And I said, that's not, not accurate, right? And then in their rematch, they didn't hold a lot of positions. They were flopping around a lot. Ben would get them out and then lose it, and he was losing a lot of positions. And my broadcast partner said, "Man, this is great jiu-jitsu." I said, "No, it's not, because good guy gets mount, you ain't going anywhere. Side control, you're not. Ricardo Arona mounts you, that's it, and you're not going anywhere, right?" And I said, Ben has great movement. He has a problem, stapling Ryan to the ground when he needs to, right? Stopping his scramble. Apparently, Ben had issues with the way I commentated that, and gave an interview with Sherdog and said, "I'm going to set Jimmy straight the next time I see him." Kind of, not threatening me, but threatening to confront me. So the next fight was Dan Hornbuckle and Ben Askren. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, Ben's going to confront me." I went, "Oh, I don't care." I'm just not easily intimidated. I don't care, And we get there. It was in Kansas City, and I'm on the elevator, and the elevator door opens, and there's Ben Askren. And I said, "Hey." And he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And I went, "So, you ready to do your interview? What's up?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And, kind of nervous or whatever. And I went, "All right, cool." And we walked into the interview room together alone. Because me and him walking down the hallway, so I was like, "Oh, man, I was trying to..." I just pretended like I didn't know that he had said that. And, yeah, everything's fine, great. We go into the room. Everybody sees us walk in together and kind of assumed we, hashed it out in the hallway. We do his interview. He gets up, leaves. Everybody turns to me and goes, "What happened?" I go, "Fucking nothing. He didn't say a fucking word to me." Nothing. Then he fights, so obviously he's but so in his fight, he destroyed Dan Hornbuckle. I can like Ben Askren. I cannot like Ben Askren. I can like Dan Hornbuckle. I cannot like Dan Hornbuckle. An ass whooping is an ass whooping. And I was like, dude, Dan is just completely unprepared for this game. He's getting mauled from pillar to post. It looks like the opening scene in Jaws. Hornbuckle's just getting thrown around. It was bad. And I was like, "Hey, dude, I might like you, I might love you, I might hate you. It doesn't matter. He's getting killed, and I call it right down the middle." So to me, there's no conflict. I can like somebody and go, "Dude, you're getting manhandled."
Yeah. I
can hate somebody and go, "Dude, he's kicking his ass." Doesn't matter to me. And we're all going to have personal feelings. It's just you don't let those things bleed on air, because it's inauthentic, it's unprofessional. You're not doing your job. That is how I see it.